We'll go ahead and kick off. Thank you guys for taking some time and coming out here. I know there's a lot of great sessions, so appreciate you you coming in here today on this, and I think you'll find what we're talking about interesting today, working with real estate investors, as well as how do we ourselves kind of become investors. How can we use the knowledge we should have, we do have, to buy and invest in real estate ourselves. So the quick history background on me is this. I'm from Colorado. Anybody been to any Colorado folks here? All right, Boulder, Colorado. Oh, see, all the people that love marijuana, their hands just go right up, right? Ah, Colorado, yeah. I did not bring free marijuana. Sorry, that's. Although we are in San Francisco, so I'm sure is it legal here? Yeah. Okay. All right. You guys should see you're looking a little nervous. Like, is this DEA type stuff? What's going on? So I'm from Colorado. I was born and raised in the real estate property management investment world. So in 1978, August of 1978, Jimmy Carter is in year number 2 of his presidency. Interest rates to buy a house were like 15%. Anybody remember that? And the Bee Gees had the number 1 hit song on the radio. Who knows what it was? Staying Alive. That's right, that's right. That same year and month, my dad decided that he had had enough training to start a real estate investment and sales company. He had been a middle school teacher, which actually, if you're going to be investing in real estate and managing tenants, being a middle school teacher is a pretty good tie over because it's a lot like working with middle school students. So he started a company, Grace Property Management and Real Estate. Company started. So I grew up in that world. I was employee number 1 because I was free child labor. So my dad would have me doing anything that needed to be done. I remember getting dropped off at properties with the lawnmower and pull some weeds and here's some paint and I'll pick you up tonight. I would serve notices, I'd show property, anything that needed to be done, I was the guy. But it gave me a really unique view into real estate, into business, into property management, because that's what I did. So as I grew up, I would spend my summers working for my dad. And the rule was, in the summertime, the rule was if it got to be over 100 degrees, I got to work in the office. Otherwise, I'm outside pulling weeds. So that's the world I grew up in. I went to Colorado State University. I studied finance. I studied real estate. And I was living and working in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Has anybody been to Cheyenne, Wyoming? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, she frowned when I said it. And that's why I frowned it as well. And so my dad called me one day and said, hey, I need to hire an agent. Job's yours if you want it. So I jumped at that opportunity. That was 20-some odd years ago. So at that point in time, we were a smaller organization. There was, I think, 3 of us in the office. We did some sales, we did some management, we did a little bit of everything. We've grown slow and steady. So today we've got a team of, 20-some odd folks. We manage real estate. We manage upwards of 1,000 properties in Denver. We do buying and selling. We buy it and sell ourselves. So I'm an investor. I own some stuff. We flip. We buy and hold. We do residential. We do commercial. Our mantra is follow the opportunity. What's the opportunity in real estate today? And whatever opportunity is there, we want to look at it. If it's a buy, let's buy it. If we can flip it, let's flip it. If we can help somebody buy something and we manage it for them, we'll do that. So that's kind of everything we do from that standpoint. So I live in the Fort Collins, Loveland area with my wife and our 4 kids. These are my 2 youngest kids. Now, go to work with Dad Day in the real estate investing world is a little bit weird because these are my 2 youngest standing in front of a rental property about to tape a piece of paper to the front door. Can you guess what that is? Yeah, that's an eviction notice. That's an eviction notice. That's right. Now, if you think that's weird and creepy, it is. It's really weird. It's really creepy. I said, kids, we drive up to the property. We leave the car running. That's very important. We walk up to the front door. We tape the notice on the front door. We knock. We run back to the car. We get in. We drive away as fast as we can. And then we go get ice cream. And they're like, my daughter's like, Dad, you have the best job in the world. It's like, yeah? Yeah, I do, honey. Yeah, I do. Although it was a little awkward. I got an email from Aaliyah, my youngest, her teacher emailed me and said, we need to talk because the class was going around and saying what their mommies and daddies do for a living, and your daughter stood up very confidently and happily and said, if people don't pay my daddy money, he kicks them out of their house. So had to have a parent-teacher conference over that. But that's the crazy world of real estate investing. So one thing that we get to do a lot of in our company is work with investors. Now, an investor may be somebody who thinks of themselves as an investor, right, the sophisticated investor that wants to talk about cap rates, or the quote-unquote investor may be like the young couple that came in our office a few weeks ago and said, hey, we watch a lot of HGTV, and we just want to buy something. They don't know what a cap rate is, but they want to buy something. So investors mean a lot of things to a lot of people, doesn't it? What I hope we'll come away with here today is the ability to work with investors competently and confidently because it's not that scary. It really isn't that scary. One of my agents came in my office a few weeks ago, and she's great. I mean, she is good. She's a solid, sharp woman. But she was nervous. She was just nervous. I said, Sherry, what's the problem? She said, well, these clients are flying into town. They want me to show them a couple properties. They want to buy an investment property, and then they want us to manage it. I said, well, Sherry, that's great, right? She goes, yeah, but I haven't worked with a sophisticated investor in a while. I mean, what if they want to know about like cash-on-cash return? What if they start asking me about interest rates on a 5-year versus a 15-year? And what if they ask me about a cap rate? You come and you're like, dun, 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 the music, right? And we get scared, don't we? We freak out sometimes as agents if we're working with an investor, and we shouldn't, because most of them aren't that sophisticated. And as long as we know a few things, we're fine working with investors. And those are the things that we want to talk about today in this session. So everything we talk about, I want you to look at through 2 lenses. Number 1, how can I use this information to help, quote unquote, investors, whether they're buying, whether they're selling? How can I help investors? Number 2, how can I use this for me? We should all be investors. We should all be investors, absolutely. That's the way we make wealth. That's the way we all be making wealth in this. Because real estate, guys, selling real estate pays the bills, but it's probably not going to make you wealthy. Owning real estate, that's where the money is at. That's what hopefully we will all be doing in a couple years. Any Keller Williams agents? So Keller Williams, at their last annual convention, I'm not a Keller Williams guy, but this is what I was told. Gary Keller gets on the front of the stage. He says to all of his agents, because he's talking about making them wealthy, he said, hey, agents, the only properties you should be listing for sale are those properties you don't want to buy yourself. Think about that. The only properties you should be listing for sale are those properties you don't want to buy yourself. We need to have a buyer's mentality as agents, because we come across deals all the time, don't we? And we pass them up too often. So we want to stop doing that. And we as agents, we have like a built-in discount. Imagine that. Imagine if we're all stockbrokers for a minute. We're all stock agents. And I say to you, hey, stock agents, for the next 12 months, any stock you want to buy, you can buy at a 6% discount. Would stockbrokers get excited about that? Yeah. Hey, real estate agents, any property you want to buy, you can buy at a 4, 5, 6% discount. Okay, this side of the room is boring. I'll try it over here. Guys, anything you want to buy, you get a 4, 5, 6% discount. Yeah, not bad, not bad. Okay, let's move on. So let's take a step backwards, and let me talk to you as if you don't know a lot about real estate investing. Okay? Let me tell you the 5 classical reasons why you want to consider real estate as an investing option. Number 1 is cash flow, meaning every single month your tenant, hopefully, pays rent. Right? You get rent, you get cash flow month after month after month. That's number 1. Number 2, tax deductions. It's almost tax time. And I remember last year when I filed my tax returns, I gave all my stuff to my accountant and he did all the tax things for me. And I remember very vividly when getting my tax returns back, thinking to myself, well, this is kind of strange because I have like cash in the bank, cold hard cash that I have made. I have made money. Yet when I file my taxes with the government, it says I lost money. And there's nothing fishy going on there, I hope. But how is that possible? Well, because the government has created a lot of tax benefits for us as real estate investors that we could take advantage of. Number 3, leverage. And by leverage, what I don't mean is, hey, let's go borrow all the money we can borrow. Let's just go borrow. We got to be cautious with that, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But what I mean is when you do borrow money and you pay it back over time, that builds up your equity. So I have a property that I bought recently in the Fort Collins area. And I bought it on a 10-year loan. So it's a pretty aggressive loan. Right? I mean, I've got a high payment. It's only a 10-year note. My payment per month is like $1,500. $1,500 every month. My mortgage is $1,500. My tenant is paying rent about the same. So every month I take my $1,500 from my tenant. I don't keep any of it really. I got to give it right to the bank. But my principal is reduced by about $1,000 every month. Every month I'm paying off $1,000. So let me ask you this. First math question of the day. If nothing else changes in Mark's personal financial world over the next 12 months, over a 12-month period, just on that one property, even if it doesn't appreciate, how much will my net worth go up? Smart folks. $12,000. That's pretty good, isn't it? How? Leverage. That's the beauty of leverage when it works. Number 4, appreciation. Because odds are that property is going to appreciate even though I'm paying it down. For us as agents, do we really have any doubt that 10 years from now, real estate's probably going to be worth more than it is today? I mean, yeah, something crazy could happen. But real estate goes up, it appreciates. And lastly, tangibility and control. Right? This is why I think investors today are flocking to real estate like they never have before. They can touch it. They can drive by it. They can see it. You want to increase the value of your piece of real estate? Put in granite countertops. Put in stainless steel appliances. You have control over that. And you don't have these in any other investment vehicle. I remember reading the headlines of the Wall Street Journal not too long ago. I woke up and opened it up and it said, Facebook stock plunges by, 35% overnight. Because who knows, Mark Zuckerberg did something stupid. 25%, 30% overnight. That typically doesn't happen in real estate because you can control it. You have tangibility. And I think the public is interested in this stuff like never before, which creates a cool opportunity for us. What's interesting, I get to travel around a fair amount and do classes like this. What's always interesting is, for whatever reason, this session, this class, is never, it's not packed right now, is it? You got elbow room, which means opportunity. All those agents out there, they don't want to work with investors. We need to go to where the other people aren't. You know where they aren't? Working with investors. They don't want to mess with it. And I don't know why. Our whole business model is based upon working with investors. And it's gotten pretty good. Because investors are repeat buyers, aren't they? They want to buy, they want to sell, they want you to manage it, they want to do it again, they know friends. I mean, man, it's awesome. It is amazing working with these folks. All right, so let's talk about the formulas, some of the formulas that real estate investors use. And there's 6 formulas really that we want to be aware of. And these aren't rocket science things, but we want to understand the concept. So regardless of the level of sophistication we're talking about, we can talk their language. So number 1, gross income. Now, gross income definitionally is simply our total annual income before we subtract any expenses, right? Total annual income before we subtract any expenses. So let's look at an example. Let's pretend that we bought a house and we can rent that little house out for $750 a month. Gross annual income is simply $750 times 12 months, $9,000. Now, knowing this, only this, does this tell us whether this is a good investment or not? No, why not? Because we don't know how much we paid. If we bought this thing in San Francisco, we probably paid $1 million for it. If we bought it in West Virginia, we probably got a good deal. So this doesn't tell us, no offense to any West Virginia folks. Hey, I was in West Virginia last month. I was talking to you there, wasn't I? All right, here we go. Number 2, net operating income. NOI, net operating income. Definitionally, it's our gross income minus expenses. Gross income minus expenses. So let's go back to our example. This little house we bought, our gross income we talked about is $9,000. To get our net income, we simply subtract our expenses. So you're going to pay some greedy property manager like myself $900. We're going to budget $450 for maintenance, taxes, insurance. Now let me ask you, for any of you that have been in the real estate investment world for a while, as you're looking at those costs, do any of them jump out to you as suspect? Name looks fishy, suspicious. What? Maintenance. Maintenance. I think I own some real estate. I manage a lot of real estate. $450 annually on that little property seems a little bit low to me. And we can trip ourselves up as well as our clients up if we miss budget maintenance. So let's answer this question. How much should we budget for maintenance? Should it be $450? How do they come up with $450 in that? I have no idea. We could use a percentage. Does anybody own stock in American Homes for Rent? No? So American Homes for Rent is a publicly traded company. You could go buy their stock if you want to. And when the real estate market collapsed about a decade ago, this was created as a publicly traded company, and they said, hey, we're going to go buy all these foreclosures around the US and we're going to rent them out. Great, that's what they're doing. Well, not too long ago, they released their projections, their budget for the year, and they said this. They said, we anticipate expenses, maintenance and repair expenses, to be 6.1% of the total income. Okay, so if we make $100, we think we're going to spend $6.10 of that on maintenance. And that was in their budget for the year. Now, how do they get 6.1%? No idea. But they have people they pay a lot of money to come up with this amount. Well, then the actual quarterly results came out. And the quarterly results said that their maintenance and repair was actually 8.5%. Now, in the real estate stock investing world, to budget this and to actually have that is not a good thing. Because the next day, this was the headline in the Wall Street Journal. And their stock dove because they misbudgeted on how much they should be spending on maintenance. And this was the headline. It said maintenance, repair, turnover costs spiked by 42%. 42% is the difference between 6.1 and 8.5. That's a bad thing in the real estate stock world, isn't it? So our thought on this is we should budget a little differently on this. And this American Homes, for instance, funny, when they opened up, when they started, I actually bought some of their stock. And the reason I bought their stock was twofold. Number one, as a stockholder, you get to go to their annual meeting. And I kind of wanted to go to the annual meeting and like see how they were going to do that. How are you going to manage homes across the US? It sounds complicated to me. The other reason I bought their stock is because they were having their annual shareholders meeting in December in Phoenix, Arizona. I mean, come on. So I bought $100 of their stock. I showed up to the stockholders meeting, and it was a room about 1/10 the size of this room. There's 3 of us in the room and the board of directors. They've got their little fruit tray over in the corner. So I just kind of come walking in, and they look at me all suspect, like, what are you doing here? I was like, I'm just here for the shareholders meeting. Want to see what you're doing with my money. Get my little fruit tray and sit down. And they have their little shareholders meeting. Then they have to take questions. Any questions from the big audience? There were 3 of us. And I was like, yeah, I got a question. Probably had like some salad dressing coming down my mouth. I was like, yeah, so I'm just curious, how are you going to handle maintenance? Like, if you're managing and owning properties across the US and a toilet breaks, are you going to have like plumbers out of the phone book? How old am I, right? Are you going to just call somebody? Like, how are you going to do that? And they looked at me like I was an idiot. They said, you don't understand. We're buying investment property. It's going to go up in value. We're going to rent it to tenants, and we'll make a bunch of money. Oh, okay, fine. I sold my stock. And it's a good thing I did, because it went way down. Now, it's come back up a little bit. But see, they got this wrong. You get this wrong, and it will kill your deal. What we have always told our investors for the last 40 years is if you want to budget for repairs, budget 1 month's rent. If your property is rented for $1,500 a month, and you want to guess how much you should spend on maintenance next year, $1,500. Now, if it's an old property, it's going to be more. If it's a brand new property, it's going to be less. But this is kind of the rule of thumb. Now, the interesting thing is if we take 1 month's rent as a percentage of gross income, it comes out to 8.3%. Almost what American Homes had at 8.5. So this is a pretty solid number, I think, if you're trying to guess and budget on how much are we actually going to be spending on repairs on our property. Now, some years it'll be higher, some years it'll be lower, but over time, over the holding period of a property, 8.3% is a pretty good number. Yes, sir?
If you have like a 4-plex or 6 units, would you take 1 month rent from each unit?
So his comment was, if you have a 4-plex, would you take 1 month's rent from each unit? Yes, you could take 1 month's rent from each unit, which would also be the total portfolio income. Absolutely. Good question. Good question. Yes, sir? 8.5%, yes. To answer his comment was, does he assume the 8.5% would include recurring costs? And yes, because remember, in year 1, if you bought a brand new property, what's your repair bill going to be in year 1? 0. You're not going to spend anything. How about year 2? Probably 0. But if we're budgeting every year for this, then when the hot water heater goes out, that's going to kick it in. So you're going to have some years that go much higher. You're going to have other years that go much lower. I have some properties I own, and last month, I had hot water heater go out in one of my units. I had a furnace go out in the other units. And furnaces, for whatever reason, in Colorado are ridiculously expensive. And the same month, my other unit, my tenant called and said, I think I have mold. Yeah. So what happened to my budget on maintenance for this month? Blew it out of the water. I sold. I didn't sell. I'm thinking of selling. You want to buy? I get you a deal. All right, number 3, formula number 3, the capitalization or the cap rate. This is the one we want to pay attention to. So if your neighbor's sleeping, wake him up, because this is the one you want to get. Was he actually sleeping? Okay, all right, good. I'm glad you woke him up. This is the important one. This is the sophisticated equation, but it's really not that complex. So let's step outside of the real estate world and talk about this. So definitionally, the estimated rate of return on the investment. Just that simple. The estimated rate of return on the investment. From an equation standpoint, it's this. It's our NOI, which we just talked about, right? Our net operating income. We divide that by the value or the price we pay. This is going to give us a percentage, an estimated rate of return. So let's step outside the real estate world. Let's pretend for a minute that you have a $100 bill burning a hole in your pocket, $100. And you don't want to spend it, you don't want to blow it, you want to invest it. So you go down to your local bank and you say, hey, Mr. Banker, Here's $100. I want to buy a 12-month CD, a certificate of deposit. And Mr. Banker, how much interest will you give me at the end of 12 months? And Mr. Banker says, you know what? I'm going to give you $1. $1. At the end of 12 months. You say, oh, okay, let's do it. We could calculate a cap rate on this investment because we have all the information we need. So let's go back to our equation. In that instance, what was our NOI? It was $1. We made $1. What was the value we paid for that? We paid $100. And by the way, do we get our $100 back? Yeah, unless your banks are doing something fishy, folks, you should be getting your money back, right? We get our money back. Just like when we sell a house, we get our money back. We divide that, it gives us a cap rate. So going back to 8th grade math, if you remember, we get 0.01. Remember that moving the decimal thing? Move the decimal 2 places, gives us 1%. It's a 1% cap rate, which, by the way, is that about accurate right now if you went to your bank and got a CD? Sure. They're paying about 1%. That's all a cap rate is, guys. It's not rocket science. It's the estimated rate of return on the investment. So let's go back to our example. Remember this deal here? Our gross income was $9,000. Our net income was $6,290. Let's calculate a cap rate on this. Let's pretend that we bought this thing for $40,000. Okay? To calculate our cap rate, we simply take our net income, $6,290, divide it by our purchase price, $40,000, and it's going to give us 0.157. We move the decimal, 15.7% cap rate. Now, by the way, if you have this deal in your portfolio, please see me at break because I would like to buy. She has it? You have the deal? You want the deal. We all want this deal. Is that a good return? Yeah. Oh, man, we love that return. We love that return. You can, all right, you see me at break, sir. You see me at break. These are out there. All right, these are out there. So remember, let's go to 9th grade math now. Remember, if we know any two sides of an equation or two parts of an equation, we can calculate the third. Remember that? You guys are looking like, oh, I don't know what it is. This was 9th grade, okay? It was 9th grade, guys. NOI divided by cap rate can give us a value. This, from the commercial world, this is how the commercial world decides how much property should be sold for. Because how do you value a 100-unit multifamily property? How do you value that? Well, what they say is you know what? We know investors are demanding a cap rate, a rate of return, of maybe 6. So we'll put 6% in there. We certainly know what our NOI is, and it's going to spit out a value. So let me show you some real-life examples. I pulled this off of LoopNet, which is a investment website. This is all the information LoopNet told me. So this is in Denver. It's a 4-unit building, $699,000. 4 units. It gives us the building size, the price per unit, the property type, and over there in the bottom right-hand corner it says cap rate. Cap rate is 6.52%. Nowhere in the listing did it tell me the net operating income. Nowhere. The listing wouldn't tell me. Why wouldn't they tell me? Does the agent just trying to be sneaky? Because I can figure it out. Yeah, exactly. I can figure it out myself, can't I? Let's go back to our equation. The NOI is what my client wants to know. My client's a buyer and says, Mark, how much am I going to actually make on this property? I say, well, let me figure it out based upon the information provided. I don't know the NOI yet. I know the cap rate is 6.52. I know the sale price is $699,000. So to calculate that, we take our $699, we convert the percentage to the decimal, we multiply it, and it gives us $45,000. So this is the NOI on this property, $45,575. Let me show you one more real-life example. Here's another property for sale. This is also a 4-plex, $575,000, multifamily, garden level. It gives us a cap rate of 5.78%. 5.78%. Now, if this were a CE class, I would make you do the math. But since if I said, what is it, I know none of you will do it, I'll just tell you the answer. It's going to come out to $33,000. Right? We take our NOI, which we're trying to calculate our NOI. We take our value, we multiply it times the cap rate, and then we back into the NOI. That's all the cap rate is. That's all the cap rate is. So here's a question for you. What normal, but important part of a real estate deal does the cap rate not take into consideration? Yeah, mortgage. I heard somebody. The loan payment. The loan payment. Let's go back a couple slides. Remember this one here? We subtracted out all of our expenses. In the list of expenses there, do you see a loan payment listed anywhere? Is that, why not? Did we forget to put it in? Did we mess up? No. See, the cap rate is designed to calculate the rate of return as if you paid cash. and that's an important distinction. So when you're working with a client or you are calculating a cap rate for yourself, you ignore the loan payment. It's irrelevant. You're calculating the rate of return as if you paid cash for the deal. And the reason we do that is it allows us to compare different type of investment options across a wide spectrum. See, if 5 of us in here are going to go buy a single family house for the exact same price, and we're trying to compare our returns, odds are the 5 of us are going to finance it very differently. Someone's going to pay cash for it. Someone's going to put down 20% on a 15-year loan. Someone's going to put down 10% on a 30-year loan. So how do we calculate our comparable cap rates? Well, we take it as if we paid cash for the deal. Here's a second question, though. What intangible but important part of a real estate deal does the cap rate take into consideration? What is the cap rate really measuring? And here's the hint. What was our cap rate at the bank on our 12-month CD? Anybody remember? 1%. And what was our cap rate on the little house on the wrong side of the railroad tracks for 40 grand? 15%. What's the difference between those two investment options? Risk. Exactly, risk. What's the risk level, all political jokes aside, that the government's going to collapse in the next 12 months and we're not going to get our dollar? Pretty low risk. Pretty low risk. What's the risk that our little property with the tenant behind the railroad tracks doesn't pay his rent next month? A little bit higher? Yeah, a little bit higher. So the cap rate is really a measurement of risk. That's what it is. And the concept is this. If you have, on the one on the left, if you have a low risk, think the bank. Low risk means a low cap rate, which is going to drive the property value down. It's going to drive the property value down. Versus, on the right-hand side, if you've got a high-risk deal, it's going to demand a high cap rate. Now, why is it going to be a high cap rate? Because you as an investor, if you're taking on a lot of risk, you're going to demand a high rate of return to offset that risk. But that is going to have the effect of pushing the property value down. The seller can't get as much for it. Why? Because I, as the buyer, am demanding a high rate of return. This is why mobile home parks are called cash cows. Because they're high risk, they're a lot of work, and people don't pay rent sometimes. I bought a mini storage a number of years ago. It was a cash cow. I remember seeing that in the ad. I was like, how can we go wrong? It says right here, cash cow. Come on, let's buy this thing. And it was for a while. It was a cash cow until things went a little south, and then it just sucked us down. But for a while, it was great. Let me show you another real-life example. I pulled this off of LoopNet just recently. This is in Boulder, Colorado, for all my marijuana friends. Okay? This is a portfolio of 13 single-family residential properties. They're all rentals. So Boulder, Colorado, that's where University of Colorado is. A lot of student housing. It's for sale. 13 properties, $18.45 million. Whew, that's kind of pricey, isn't it? I don't know if you can see this right down here, but the cap rate is 3.02%. It's rate of return, 3.02%. Now, is that a good cap? Is that good? Is that bad? Well, what's so interesting is the same day I saw this online, I happened to be reading my local newspaper. And I took a screenshot of what I saw, because this is what I saw. This was advertised from my bank in my town where I live, that you could go get a 12-month CD at the bank at 2.4%. 2.4%. So I'm looking at this. 3.02%. Has anybody ever managed student housing? Yeah. How time-consuming do you think this investment opportunity would be? Risky? Yeah, it's Boulder. Yeah, there's a lot of marijuana in those properties. A lot of students. To get your 3.02. How hard is that to manage? Pretty easy. Pretty easy. Gosh, which one do you want to do? So here's what we're going to do. We're real estate people, right? We're going to vote on what we are going to do as a group. Because collectively, you know what? I took a measurement of how much cash we have, and we all happen to have $18.45 million. And we're going to invest it at the end of this class. But we all have to vote in majority rules. So are we going to take our $18.45 million and buy a portfolio of 13 properties in Boulder, Colorado, generating 3.02%? Or are we going to go down to our local bank, hand them a check for $13 million, or whatever it was, and yeah, thank you, 18. I'm already forgetting, 18, and get our 2.4. So think about it in your head. Think about it right now, because everyone must vote. If you don't participate in the vote, security will see you out. You got it decided? Okay, raise your hand if you're buying the real estate, baby. We're going real estate. Okay, raise your hand if you're going to the bank. Whoo, that's like 3 to 1. Now guys, here's the thing. We're real estate agents in this room, right? But we're not even buying this real estate. We're voting, I'm not buying this. So somebody that said they want to buy, who said they want to buy this? Why, ma'am, why did you say you want to go for this one? Because you're going to manage it better than it has been managed, which is going to result in what? A higher cap rate. So you think you can get higher rents maybe? So she said she's going to manage it better, and maybe she will. Maybe she will. Who else wanted to go for this one? Ma'am, why? Why do you want to do this one? Appreciation. This is an appreciation play, isn't it? Could this go up in value over the next 12 months? Sure. Could this go up in value over the next 12 months? No, there's no appreciation there. Now, by the way, if this appreciates, if this goes up in value, let's pretend the rents don't. If the rents stay where they're at, but this goes up in value, based upon what we just learned about cap rates, what does that do to the value? It means that we're paying more for it, right? Okay, who voted for this? Everybody. Why'd you vote for this?
I borrow money from the bank and buy.
Oh, you're going to borrow money from the bank and buy this? Okay, you're ruining my whole presentation. I'm going over here. All right. Who wants to do that? Who else why would you want to do this one over the real estate? You think they're going to give us more than 2.4? Well, maybe they will. What did you say over here? No risk. Guys, I've lived in Boulder. I used to manage student housing. This is going to be hard. This is going to be hard. It's not going to be easy. Now, this could go up in value. But this, guys, is why when you hear people say, oh, the real estate market's going to collapse or things are weird, I don't know what's going to happen. None of us know what's going to happen. But these equations are not normal historically. This is not right. Something is wrong here. Because historically speaking, if you can get 2.4% guaranteed through the federal government of the United States of America, then this investment ought to be returning somewhere in the range of 8-9%, historically speaking. But it's not. It's 3. That's not normal. That's weird. Something's weird there. This is why interest rates are so important. This is why interest rates make the front headlines all the time. Yes, it also impacts what people can borrow money for to buy a house. But even more importantly, it impacts what investors are going to do with their money. Because if they can get guaranteed rates of return like this, they're not going to buy real estate. Imagine if I said my dad started our company in 78. In 1978, you could go down to the bank and this would have been, I don't know, 12. If you could get 12 at your bank, what would this have to be to attract investors? 20, which means the value of this portfolio would what? It'd collapse. That's why people get so freaked out about interest rates. Remember Donald Trump a few weeks ago? He was just railing against the Fed. He called for interest. This is what he said. I want the Fed to take interest rates to 0 or less. That's what he said. 0 or less. Now we giggle, right? Like, oh, come on, Trump. But you know what? How many countries right now do you think have interest rates less than 0? Look at this. This is from about 2 weeks ago. You see all the lines pointing to the left? Those are countries that have interest rates of less than 0 right now. France, Germany, Sweden, Netherlands, Switzerland, Japan. Guys, those are not backwoods countries. Those are legit economies. They have interest rates of less than 0. So is it so out of question to think that, oh, come on, stupid Trump, we can never have rates less than 0? Sure we could. It's happening all over the place. Imagine that. If you're in one of those countries, the bank pays you money to borrow. Yes, ma'am. How does that work? The way it works is the bank pays you money to borrow, number one. And the other way it works is this right here. If our country had interest rates less than 0, that number, when you looked at it, there'd be a minus sign in front of the 2. Meaning if you go to the bank because you're like, oh, I just got to protect my money. I don't want anything to happen to it. Here, banker, hold on to my money. Here's $1 million. He'd say, okay, great. 12 months from now, I'm going to give you $950,000 back. Not only am I not going to give you interest, I'm going to keep a little bit. And the reason the government does that is because they want to encourage investments. They want the public, they want you all to invest your money. They want us to invest our money. How do they do that? Well, if they started charging us to put our money with the bank, we'd be more likely to buy this, wouldn't we? That's why interest rates are so important and they matter so much. Yes, sir? What would happen in prices? Yeah. One of the reasons that he wants interest rates to come down is to bring prices up. Because if interest rates were to go to -5, let's say they go to -5, then maybe for this deal, you'd buy this if you could just get 1. And if you can only get 1 on this deal, now instead of paying 18 million, you're going to pay 20 million. Prices just went up. Like that's the game that we play with interest rates. And people say, oh, that's just artificial. Well, it doesn't matter if it's artificial or not. It's the reality, right? The government sets interest rates. That's the way it works. That's why we have to pay attention to what happens on these things, because they impact us as investors. Other questions on that? Yes, sir?
So, just making a decision between the 2 options here, how can you make a fully informed one if you don't know what the market cap rate is on the first property? So if the market cap rate in that Boulder or the Colorado one is 5%, and that's 3.3, could you then negotiate and bring it down to the average market?
Well, so his comment was, how can we make an offer if we don't know the market cap rate? Now, we do know the market cap rate because they tell us it's 3.02. The 3.02% cap rate is the cap rate, the rate of return for the portfolio, for the entire portfolio of 13 properties. And we don't, so his comment was, what about other similar properties in the area? We don't know that for the sake of this conversation, but I will tell you this is kind of normal for Boulder. Now, using the word normal and Boulder don't really make sense together, but in Boulder, this is, now by the way, here's something else, interesting thing. In Boulder, Colorado, there's a building moratorium. You may not build any real estate. It is illegal to build a house. Could that drive values up a little bit more? No new competition? Sure. That's where we have to know the market we're in. But if, and in California, folks be like, yeah, that's pretty good. Where's my West Virginia friend back there? Like, did you just start laughing when you saw this? Because West Virginia, you can get cap rates of probably 13%, right? All right, let's move on. Now, what if you say, well, Mark, that's interesting about a cap rate, but it's irrelevant because I'm not going to be paying cash. I'm going to be borrowing some money. So who cares what my cap rate is because I'm borrowing money? Well, we use a different equation for that. We use a cash-on-cash return to calculate that. Definitionally, the cash-on-cash return is the ratio of annual cash flow to the total amount of cash invested as a percentage. So this is calculated based upon how much money you put into the deal. So the equation is this. It's our NOI, which we talked about, minus our debt service, and that's the annual debt service, so our annual mortgage payment, divided by our down payment, divided how much money we put into the deal. So let's go back to our example. Remember this deal here? Let's pretend that our down payment on that deal was 25 grand. Remember, we bought it for 40 grand, so our down payment was 25% of that, 10,000 bucks. Let's pretend that our mortgage payment per month is $200, meaning our annual debt payment is $2,400. We now have all the information we need to calculate a cash-on-cash return. What's my rate of return based upon how much money I put into the deal? Our NOI on that deal we knew was $6,290. Our debt service annually was $2,400. We divided it by our down payment, 10 grand. It's going to give us 39%. 39%. Now, what was our cap rate on this deal? 16, is that what it was, 16, 17, whatever? 15? Okay, our cap rate was 15. Why is our cash-on-cash return 39? Why is it so much higher? Yeah, leverage. This is the beauty of leverage, guys. This is why when Donald Trump was running for president, he said, I love debt. I love debt. You know why he loves debt? Because you can take a deal that has a return of 15% and you can inflate it to a 39% by leverage. When it works. When it works. Now, if you get on the bad side of debt, that's where it becomes the anchor that drags you down, right? Because all leverage is, it's an amplifier. That's all leverage is. It's like this microphone, right? This microphone takes my voice and it creates more of it. If I had a beautiful singing voice, which I don't, and I sang, I would sound amazing through the amplifier. Leverage takes a good deal and it makes it great. But leverage takes a bad deal and it kills you. That's why leverage is so dangerous. We've got to be cautious with it. So I'm not crazy anti-debt guy, and I'm not a crazy let's go borrow all we can. It's an amplifier. That's all it is. And if we understand it and use it wisely, yes, it can elevate our returns. But we have to be cautious. We need to encourage our clients to be cautious. The biggest problem we have seen with investors failing over 40 years, we've been in business for 40 years, there's one far and away cause of failure in our investor clients. It's not how smart they were. It's not how hard they worked. It's not even which properties they bought. It's how much money did they borrow. Because if you're over leveraged, and then you get a call from somebody like me, your property manager, and I say, hey, bad news. Tenant skipped out, and the hot water heater went out, and the furnace. And I need new carpet, and I need new paint, and we had to evict them. So I need a check for 10 grand. If you're barely scrimping by and you have no money in savings, that sunk you, killed you. So leverage is a dangerous game to play with. And as investors, it's the reality, isn't it? We have to do that, but we've got to be cautious. Not overly cautious, but careful with that. Questions on that? Yes, sir. Does debt service include principal and interest? Yes. The debt service that we talked about there is your principal plus your interest. Good question. Thank you. All right. One more equation we need to know. A pro forma statement. A pro forma statement. Now, a pro forma statement is a financial statement based on assumptions and projections. A financial statement based upon assumptions and projections. So let's go back. I'm going to go back a couple slides. Remember this deal right here, 3.02%? That 3.02% is very likely based upon a pro forma statement. So if I'm the agent for the seller, you're going to be selling this property. Can I pick on you for a moment? All right, so what is your name?
Ava.
Ava. Ava owns this property, and she's hired me as her agent. By the way, you know what kind of commission I'm going to get on this deal? Big one. Okay, so Ava's going to hire me as her agent. So I sit down with Ava. One of the things we have to do is create a pro forma, an assumptions and projections. So here's what I say to Ava. Ava, so this property here, you know, how much do these things rent for per month? Just whatever you want. What do these rent for per month? Okay, each one rents for about $1,200. And you've been managing these yourself, haven't you, Ava? Yeah. Are you good at what you do? Are you a good property manager? Not really. I agree with you. I don't think you know what you're doing. You know what? I think a good property manager, if you knew what you were doing, Ava, you wouldn't get $1,200 per unit. I think you'd get $1,500 per unit. Okay, great. So on our pro forma, we're going to write down pro forma rents, $1,500. How much did you spend on maintenance last year, Ava? About 130. Okay, well, we've already established the fact that you're a terrible property manager. So if a good property manager would probably spend 10 grand? Okay, 10 grand. So our pro forma, we just elevated our rents in our pro forma, and we underestimated our expenses in our pro forma. By the way, nobody signs a pro forma. Nobody signs it. Is what we just did illegal? No, it's a pro forma. It's based upon assumptions and projections. Is it immoral? Maybe, who knows? But now, so I'm her agent, so now when the buyer comes along, can I pick on you? What's your name? Laura? Laura. Laura comes along, and when she sees the pro forma, here you go, here's a pro forma. And she's like, oh my gosh, look at this. I mean, the actuals are this, but the pro forma says rents should be $1,500 a month. And her agent's like, oh, cool, yeah, we can get $1,500 a month. And she buys it. And then she calls up some silly property manager like me, and I say, whoa, 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 you can't get $1,500 a month. It's $1,200, that's all you can get. Who's she mad at, by the way, now? Her agent. So as agents, we better be cautious when we are viewing pro formas that come from the seller. Now, we should still do our own pro forma. I mean, a pro forma has value. We should do it ourselves. But don't believe a pro forma. I've never, ever seen a pro forma that I thought was quite accurate. So when you get a pro forma, when you're the agent for the buyer, and you receive the pro forma, here's what I want you to say. You might want to write this down so you don't forget. Liar, liar, pants on fire. Because it's based upon assumptions and projections, guys. It's made up. They make it up. Pro formas are made up. Meaning in this deal here, we probably can't even get 3.2 or 3.02. It's probably based on a pro forma. Now, when pro formas do really come into play, is let's pretend that Ava said, you know what, Mark? My grandmother owns this portfolio, and she hasn't raised rents in 10 years. Well, then, yeah, we probably do have some significant upside there. But we have to analyze a pro forma and not just take it for what it's worth. Questions on that? So be cautious on your pro forma. Do a pro forma, but be cautious on it and do it yourself as the buyer. Okay, let's pivot here for a minute. We've been talking about working with these clients. Let's look at some qualities that we ideally want to see in our clients, whether they're buyers or sellers. Is every client a good client? Guys, we should have had a little more emphatic no on that, right? Every client is not a good client. Absolutely not. So how do we discern? Good clients, bad clients? Well, let me give you a couple examples of things you can do. In our office, we use what we call a strategic relationship matrix. And this isn't anything we invented, but this is what we do to kind of value our clients. So if you're taking notes, draw this little picture, right? Draw a vertical axis up and down with the word profit next to it, meaning the profitability of the client. High profit, gonna make a lot of money from them. Low profit. And on our horizontal axis, write the word maintenance, meaning the difficulty of the client. Low difficulty, high difficulty. So we have 4 quadrants here. Ideally, in which of these 4 quadrants do we want our clients to be? Yeah, upper left, right? Priority 1. High profit, low maintenance. We make a lot of money from them, and they are easy, our cash cows. We love those clients. Now, all of our clients can't be there. We know that. But ideally, as you progress through your business life cycle, you'll want to push more and more clients to that place. Those are the ones that say, hey, I want to buy an expensive property. I don't need to see very much. Just go make the deal happen. We love them. Now, our priority 2 is our low profits, but low maintenance. We don't make a lot of money, but they're easy. So this is the buyer that comes to you and says, hey, I want to buy a condo. It's only 100 grand. So meaning, is your commission big or small? Yeah, that's pretty small. But they say, you know what? This is the complex I want to buy in. When a unit comes for sale, just let me know and let's write a contract on it. Would you take that client? Sure. You're not going to make it much, but you say, okay, no problem. Versus another client who comes to you and says, hey, I only have 100 grand to spend. You say, oh, okay. But then they say, but here's the deal. I want to look at least 15 properties before I consider making an offer. And really, Sunday nights are the only night that's good for me to look around. Would you take that deal? Now, they're both spending the same amount of money, but one's high maintenance, one's low maintenance. Now, quadrant 3 is our high profit, high maintenance. These are the ones we don't know what to do with. We make a lot of money from them, but they drive us crazy. Has anybody had any clients in this area? Yeah, oh my gosh. They're tough. They really are tough, aren't they? We don't know what to do with folks in here. As you go through your business cycle, this is the one that you have the toughest decision with. Right? We have a lot of clients on this in the property management space. We have a lot of clients like this because we make good money from them. We had a client come to us, his name is Frank. And Frank was a buyer. He bought a couple properties. We loved it. And then he wanted us to manage them. Great. But Frank used to be a housing inspector. You may want to write down, never take on a housing inspector as a client. Because when we will do a repair on Frank's property, he's never seen an invoice that was quite right. So he'll call me up. Hey, Mark, it's Frank. I got that invoice for the winterization of the sprinkler system. Yeah, Frank. It was $45, Mark. Yeah, it was. You know, last year, Mark, it was only $43. That's $2 more. I'm just saying, $2. It adds up. Yeah, Frank. And did the vendor remember to check those sprinkler heads in the west corner of the backyard? Because I think they were leaking last year, if I remember. And when I drove by, the trash cans were just visible around the corner. If you could please call the tenant, make sure they pull that. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. Like, he's not a jerk, but he drives us crazy. So the way we're set up internally is we have property managers that manage portfolios of properties. So one of my PMs, my property managers, comes in my office and says, Mark, Frank's driving me crazy. I can't handle him. Drive me nuts. I cannot handle him. I said, I get it. So I email Frank kind of a nice email that says, hey, Frank, you know, maybe it's best if we just part ways because you like to manage hands-on. Our system is designed for hands-off. Maybe it's best we part ways. So my phone rings a few seconds later. I see in the voice or on the call ready, it's Frank. So like any good agent, I let it go to voicemail. And Frank leaves me a voicemail. Hey, Mark, it's Frank. Got your email, buddy. Listen, we're good. I know I get a little bit testy. You guys are great. Love you guys. Everything's great. Appreciate it. Bye. Click. So as it came to the end of that year, the fee that we charged Frank for the management of his properties, guess what I did to him? I upped the fee. I charged him more. Why? Because he's a pain in the neck. I charged him more. A couple months later, same thing happens. My other PM, who's now working with Frank, comes in, tells me the same thing. Mark, Frank's driving me crazy, can't handle it. This time I just email Frank a termination email. Dear Frank, appreciate working with you. Terminated. Send. Calls me again. Mark. Well, I'm good. We're good. Please. I love you guys. You guys are great. I'll be better. We're good. Okay, Frank, fine. But now I have time to work with a different PM. And guess what I did to Frank's fees again? I charged him more. I did. I kid you not, it happened a third time. Guess who's managing Frank's properties now? Yeah, I am. But guys paying us like a 20% management fee. I'm just greedy enough. I can't turn away 20% for crying out loud. Now, priority 4 is our low profit, high maintenance clients. Those are our dogs. I don't know what you do with your dogs in your state, but in Colorado, when our dogs get sick, we shoot them. That's what we do. We get rid of them. I'm kidding, folks. We don't really shoot our dogs. We shoot our cats, but they deserve it. That's another story. Low profit, high maintenance. If you have a real estate business, in your selection of clients, in all seriousness, if you have clients right here, you have 2 options if you're going to survive in this business. Option 1 is you push them up, you charge them for being a pain in the neck. Option 2 is you fire them. That's it. You do not have permission to work with low profit, high maintenance clients. You don't. It'll suck the life out of you, suck the energy out of your business. It'll drive you crazy. And we've all done that, haven't we? We've all done that. Now the difficulty comes in this, because we're agents. And you say, yeah, but Mark, I'm working with a client who's in that category, but I've been working with him for so long. It's been 3 months. I just want to see it through to the end. Anybody been there? Am I the only one? Yeah. I've got so much invested in them. I know. So here's the way that you really analyze that. See, if we were stock investors, we'd have the same problem. And psychologically, human nature has that problem. Human nature says, I've got so much invested in it, I just want to get my investment out. So in the stock world, they have this analysis. It's called a sunk cost analysis, a sunk cost analysis. And here's what they do. They say, hey, stock people, yeah, you all bought the stock at $100, and yeah, it dropped to 50. Now, human nature says, I don't want to sell. Let's let it go back to 100, at least get our money out, then we'll sell. Right? That's human nature. And the stock investing world realizes that, gosh, we got to take the emotion out of the decision. So they do a sunk cost analysis. A sunk cost analysis says this to the stock investor. Hey, I know you bought at 100, and I know it's worth 50 today. So here's my question. Would you buy it today at 50? Would you buy it today at 50? Knowing now what you know about that client, would you work with them again? And if the answer is, you know what, knowing now what I know about him, I wouldn't do it. Okay, then the sunk cost analysis says, forget what you've invested in him, walk away. Wash your hands and walk away. If you say, yeah, I'd do it again, okay, then keep working with them. But it's irrelevant what you've previously invested in them. Move away. Okay, a couple more things and we'll get out of here. If you called my office today and you wanted to hire us, you wanted to hire us to be your agent, the agent you would be talking to is going to have a questionnaire in front of them. A client questionnaire. And it's going to have a lot of basic information. What's your name? What's your email address? What are you looking to buy? But at the end of that questionnaire, there was 4 questions. 4 questions that my agent must discern about you as their potential client during the conversation. And question number 1 says this, is the client financially stable? So if you're a buyer and you call and say, well, I'm unemployed and my credit score is 3 and I just got evicted and kicked out of my last house, we're not going to take you on. Right? We're going to discern the answer to this question, because there's a little yes/no box after this question. My agent must check yes or no. That's question number 1. Question number 2, is this client emotionally stable? We have to discern that from the conversation. Now, my recommendation is that you do not ask this question verbatim of the prospective client, but you must discern this. And this can be hard to do. But have you worked with emotionally unstable clients? Oh my gosh, they're crazy. There are crazy people out there, folks. You've got to figure them out and you've got to run away. Now, one of my agents said, Mark, how do I know if somebody's emotionally unstable? I said, well, in my estimation, if they cry on the first conversation, or if they own more than 2 cats, they're just not emotionally stable. Okay, that's normal. I know, you know it's true, though. You know it's true. All right, number 3, is the client realistic in expectations? Are they realistic in expectations? What is their level of expectation of you, and can you meet it? Because for us as agents, sometimes we don't care about this. We just see a potential client, and I don't care what they expect of us. I want the client. I want the deal. That's not healthy. We need to make sure that we can meet their expectations. And every time we break away from these, we get ourselves in trouble. I had a prospective client that I contacted. I mentioned I've got 2 boys and 2 girls. I took my 2 youngest boys to Vail, Colorado for a boys' weekend. So we're just going to hang out in Vail for the weekend. So it's Sunday morning. We're sitting in the hotel in Vail. My guys are sleeping. And I do what we all shouldn't do. I get on my emails. And I'm on my emails at 6 a.m. Sunday morning, 6 a.m. And I get a little email ding. Ding, email. And somebody had been on our website, and they had submitted a request for information to have us help them sell their house. And then, or if they couldn't sell it, manage it. Will you help us sell? And the email basically said, hey, I'm on your site. This looks interesting. Please call me as soon as possible. Time is of the essence. 6 a.m. Sunday morning. I'm sitting there. I thought, you know what? I'm going to impress the socks off this lady. So I call her. Hello, ma'am. This is Mark Cunningham with Grace Property Management. I just saw that you were on our website and you wanted some information on our services. How can I help you? She's like, aren't you the owner of the company? Yes, I am. What? Like it's Sunday morning at 6 a.m. That's just the kind of service we provide around here, ma'am. That's just what you can expect from us. Oh, okay, great. So we have a conversation. And she wanted me to come over today. Can you come over today and sign the paperwork? No, I can't come today. I'll have somebody call you Monday. Okay, we get the deal. We're under contract. Fast forward, that was a Sunday morning. Fast forward not to the next Monday, like the day after, the next Monday. I get to my office Monday morning, check my voicemails. I have a voicemail first from this woman. Hey, Mark, this is whoever. I've left a couple messages. Nobody's calling me back. I really need to hear from somebody. And the message had come in like Friday night at 9 p.m. And I delete it, and I listen to the next one. It's her again. Mark, this is whoever. I don't know what kind of company you're running here. I haven't heard from anybody in all weekend long. I've left several messages with several people. Nobody's calling me back. If this is the kind of company you run, I don't know if I want to do business. No. Click. And I thought, what expectation did I set with that woman? You want to talk at 6 a.m. on Sunday? Here I am. And that's not how we normally do business. These weren't emergencies. That's our fault. We didn't set proper expectations. And lastly, can I control the situation and the client? Can I control the situation and the client? And I don't mean control like in a puppet master kind of way. But gosh, if somebody wants to use you as their agent, they better trust your advice. They better give you a pretty high degree of control and listen to what you say. And if they're not willing to listen to what you say, you may not want them as a client, because that's just necessary. So our agents, these are 4 yes or no's. If our agent checks no by any one of the 4 of these, they do not have permission to work with you as a client. They don't, because I know how it's going to end. It's going to end poorly. All right, you are supposed to go online, rate this. So go online, rate the session as all 5s. If you want to rate it as anything less than that, just write it on a napkin and give it to me, and I'll take care of that. That's my contact information. If you want to give me a card, I'll be happy to send you a copy of these things as well from that standpoint. But guys, thank you very much. I wish you a lot of success.